Well, how many of you recycled prescription bottles, bread tags, even candy wrappers when there's really no evidence that you can recycle it? Well, this practice is known as wish cycling. In this morning's Project Earth, a new startup hopes to make most of your wishes come true. Here's Devin Feely on an innovative service that hopes to fill the gaps.
Early mornings when Juan Lopez heads to his truck, the young man already feels inspired.
It's very noticeable that the work that we're doing is actually making a difference.
A big difference by diverting waste from landfill.
A lot of positive progress towards a better future and just like a better, mindset towards recycling and like where your trash is going.
Juan works for Ridwell. The name really says it all, and now in the Bay Area, business is booming.
Our drivers are doing about 50 to 120 stops a day. That's a 10-hour day, 4 days a week.
Ridwell aims to keep hard-to-recycle items and any reusable stuff out of landfill. It's a daunting task. Reports show that only 32% of waste is properly recycled or composted. Most ends up rotting in the dump, which in turn creates methane, a potent greenhouse gas.
A lot of people, myself included, were recycling things that couldn't be recycled. Made me feel really guilty to know that maybe perhaps a whole recycling load would be ruined because something was in there that shouldn't have been.
Tara Lee in San Jose now uses Ridwell to augment her curbside service. She demonstrates how it works.
They have little bags, they're all nicely labeled, let you know what can go in.
Tara sorts items into different cloth bags provided by Ridwell.
Lots of things that cannot be recycled in our normal recycling stream. Light bulbs, batteries. We could take batteries to hazardous waste, but that's an extra trip, right? Gas, time, etc. This one is all picked up right at the house.
On pickup day, she places the bags into a small outdoor bin. That's where workers like Juan retrieve them. He takes the sacks, returns to his truck, and sorts each bag into its proper bin.
I just got a text that says I did it. I'm saving the world one plastic bag at a time.
As to where all that stuff goes.
And if there's a partner who can reuse or recycle it, we will seek them out and we will pick it up from people's doorsteps.
Ryan Metzger is the CEO and founder of Ridwell. He works with local, regional, and national partners to find solutions that will breathe new life into the waste. Take, for example, plastic bags, which don't go into most curbside recycling bins.
So this is a piece of Trex, and so this is what our plastic film gets turned into. We pick it up from people's Ridwell bins, we take it to our warehouse, we put it in bales, and then we send it down to Nevada where it gets turned into this material that a lot of people use to make decks out of.
On special pickup days, Ridwell also collects reusable household items. Some are dropped off at a Bay Area nonprofit called Make It Home.
The best goodies that we're getting from Ridwell, we get lots of kitchen utensils, and we also get lots of pots and pans and bakeware and kitchen items that are expensive to purchase and really hard to recycle.
Each year, Americans throw more than 12 million tons of furniture into landfills. At Make It Home, reusable items find new homes.
We're serving homeless to home. We're serving people who have survived domestic violence. We're serving foster kids who are aging out.
Ridwell costs anywhere from $14 to $24 a month. Hannah Parento says it's well worth it.
I think it's worth it to pay for Ridwell on top of the existing city waste pickup because I know that there are more things that are being kept out of the landfill that way.
Hoping to make a difference, one pickup at a time.
Rising temperatures and extreme weather events threaten the lives of billions of people around the world. In tonight's Project Earth, how Bay Area musicians, the United Nations, the Recording Academy, and a global alliance are joining forces to use music for change.
Outside the historic Fillmore,
San Francisco!
Inside, Green Day, the Grammy winners who can sell out stadiums, just performed at the more intimate venue.
Welcome to my problem.
The East Bay group played 2 entire albums, the newly released Saviors, as well as the masterpiece American Idiot. The event was hosted by the United Nations and Recording Academy, but it was organized by the Right Here, Right Now Global Climate Alliance.
Music is a really unique tool in our toolbox.
David Clark founded the alliance. He says the Fillmore event was the global kickoff to a new concert venture. The proceeds will fund climate change initiatives.
Green Day, they've been promoting, social and environmental issues for decades. So they were really our first choice, and we're grateful they agreed to perform, and it was amazing.
One goal, to reframe climate change as a human rights crisis. Those in immediate danger are already among the most vulnerable.
It's such an existential threat. It's actually hard for people to wrap their heads around it, which is why you need to communicate in languages that they understand, like art and music.
If we don't take care of each other, it's going to be pretty dismal.
Grammy winner Xavier Duprepolis, Oakland's own Fantastic Negrito, applauds the alliance and its efforts.
If we don't take care of our home, the planet, and get really concerned about the things that are happening here, then it's going to be a miserable place to live.
Can you hear the sound? It's blowing into the ground.
His song Rolling Through California was sparked by the state's devastating 2021 wildfire season, stoked by climate change. He too sees music as an instrument of change.
You want to try to motivate people to do something, to take action, because doing nothing is just not an option.
Xavier's Storefront Records is co-hosting an Earth Day celebration on April 21st at Thrive City near Chase Center. He says vulnerable communities are also in our own backyard.
Other neighborhoods that I came from sometimes even are overlooked, or the conversation isn't even being had about climate change and environment.
On Earth Day, there will be open-air markets that will benefit local vendors to keep us all thriving.
Get in harmony with the earth, the place that you live. The more you love it, the more it gives. Earth Day!
A gift where we can all find harmony.
What are you going to do with the empty chip bags, the pizza boxes? Well, on tonight's Project Earth, some real trash talk is in order. I spoke to a top team for advice.
It's lunchtime at Glenwood Elementary in San Rafael. Tucked into the lunch bags and boxes,
cheese and tortilla roll, chicken noodle soup, half Asian burrito. It's a cucumber and radish salad, some pistachio nuts.
But before students head back to class, a trip to the recycling bins. These kids know what goes where. That's thanks, in part, to the school's Green Team.
The Green Team is a group of really dedicated kids who care about the environment, and they're trying to help our whole school learn how to sort their waste.
And there's a lot of waste, about 2 billion tons generated each year around the world. Not only that, but 40% of all the food we bring home ends up in a landfill. And that landfill mix is helping to fuel climate change by creating a potent greenhouse gas.
It creates methane. Methane is a greenhouse gas that can lead to pollution to our environment.
15% of greenhouse gases come from landfill. If organic waste like food or soiled paper is not composted, it rots and produces methane. And that's contributing to more extreme weather events,
like droughts and wildfires.
Surveys show more than 55% of Americans are confused by recycling. That includes seasoned news veterans. Found inside the KPIX bins, soiled paper towels and cups thrown into landfill, a fruit salad sealed in a Ziploc dumped into compost, and an unemptied cup of soup tossed into recycling. So we asked the Green Team for help.
Organic food in the compost, soft plastic in the trash.
What does not go into recycling?
Food waste, candy wrappers, chip bags.
What does not go into compost?
Plastic bags and wrappers and like straws and those things.
And finally, what does not go into landfill?
Banana peels or soiled papers or even plants.
But what about this? At KPIX in the landfill bin, a sealed plastic bag containing an aluminum can, sardines, used paper towels, a soiled paper plate, and a plastic fork.
It's gross. I think that that is definitely not the best choice to do. This is the type of thing where people are just too lazy to do it.
Bottom line, the Green Team insists sorting is simple. It's just not that hard.
Just always follow the stickers or like the instructions when it comes to trash.
And that's the best kind of trash talking.
We got told off by some kids, some very, very smart kids, though. For more tips on how you can protect the planet, log on to our website, kpix.com, to see all of our Project Earth reports. Climate change is threatening the very survival of an iconic creature, the Arctic fox. While biologists in Norway say they've found a way that might be able to protect them, a Bay Area scientist explains there is a bigger, wider problem here. In tonight's Project Earth, Elizabeth Cook explains the steps it'll take to outfox a warming planet.
The Arctic fox. Their playful nature and distinctive look make them one of the most captivating creatures in the wild. But Arctic foxes are in trouble. Experts say they need to hunt rodents to survive long winters, and climate change is making their prey rare and harder to find.
If we get warmer and more unstable climate where you get snow melt and you get icing on the ground, that is going to affect how well the rodents can survive.
Thousands of miles away in the Bay Area, Stanford professor of biology Elizabeth Hadley. She cautions the Arctic fox is not the only species under threat.
Absolutely not. The Arctic fox is not the only species threatened by climate change and human activities.
Hadley studies the loss of biodiversity in a human-dominated world. She explains how human activity and climate change are challenging the survival of many species around the world.
Extinction happens in a heartbeat, and evolution takes a very long time. So it's easier to kind of kill something than it is to allow it to persist. So biodiversity is threatened in many ways by humanity, and the Arctic foxes exemplify those threats.
Back in the Arctic, Norwegian scientists have set up more than 30 feeding stations across the wilderness. They believe without this food, the Arctic fox would go extinct.
If we stop the feeding now, we would see a decrease in the population sizes, and that would be really detrimental.
The International Union for the Conservation of Nature reported how over 44,000 species are now threatened with extinction. Dr. Hadley believes we have a moral responsibility to consider what we could do to stem the loss.
It requires major activities on the part of humanity, not just a single person. We can all do our share, but it requires major action for us to consider what we can do to stem global change,
including reducing greenhouse gases and preserving wildlife habitats so we can outfox the threat.
100 years ago, Chinook salmon from the McLeod River near the Shasta Dam ended up in the cold mountain waters of New Zealand, where today they continue to thrive. In tonight's Project Earth, Ann Makovic has an update on the quest to bring these ancestors of the California fish back home. That's thanks to a new grant.
It is a 300-mile journey that traces the ancestral path of the winter-run Chinook salmon from the McLeod River to the Pacific Ocean. The annual pilgrimage is led by the Winnemem-Wintu tribe and its chief, Colleen Sisk. The tribe has never wavered from a core belief.
Whatever happens to the salmon happens to the people.
Salmon populations are a fraction of what they once were, and climate change plays a role.
In the last decade, they've been hit by the 1-2 punch of climate change. Disruptive heat waves, dryness through extreme drought.
Chuck Bonham heads up the California Department of Fish and Wildlife. He says the summer of 2021 was a grim one for the salmon.
We were in the midst of the peak of our most recent severe drought. And these fish are now trapped down on the valley floors. And the valley floors are much hotter. Water that's too hot is lethal for salmon.
California's Fish and Wildlife just awarded $50 million in grants for 15 projects. One involves the Winnemem-Wintu and the tribe's attempts to restore wild salmon to the McLeod River.
This is the right thing to do, and it'll help us figure out how to save salmon in California.
And so they're in a dire position now and may go extinct if this project that we're involved with isn't successful.
Sisk recounts how the problem first began with the Shasta Dam. While the dam provides flood control, hydroelectric power, and water supplies,
it is a weapon of mass destruction to me.
Built during World War II, Shasta Dam flooded the Winnemem tribe off their ancestral land. It also blocked the Chinook from returning to the icy cold McLeod River to spawn. In 1994, these fish were federally listed as endangered. The tribe held protests. Then Chief Sisk got an email.
Do you want your salmon back? We have them.
That email was from the head of the Maori people of New Zealand. It turns out, in the 19th century, millions of salmon eggs from the McLeod River were exported to 30 states and 14 different countries to create new salmon runs. The only one that thrived is the one in New Zealand. Sisk and other tribal members traveled to see the fish and became determined to bring some back home to the McCloud.
You know, we want to welcome them home.
What better way to try to heal past injuries and show the world it's possible to do things together and make it better?
In an historic agreement, the tribe is now working with Fish and Wildlife and NOAA Fisheries to support a joint effort to return the salmon to the McCloud. Sisk believes the wild salmon eggs will fare better than those hatched near the dam.
If the salmon survive, people will survive. If we can get a volitional passage from the Sacramento River past the dam so that fish can swim in and out on their own, then we have wild fish again.
The hope? To get them home safely as soon as possible.
In just 4 days, a blizzard dropped more than 100 inches of snow in parts of California, ending the state's snow drought. But February was also the warmest on record globally, and we're already seeing signs of an early spring. So what's going on? Kelsey Thornton explains in tonight's Project Earth.
It was a monster blizzard.
We're trying to get out, but I think we're stuck here tonight.
The storm slammed California with heavy snow, high winds, and treacherous whiteout conditions. But the aftermath, simply epic. In just 4 days, 6 to 10 feet of snowfall. Concern over California's snow drought evaporated.
We went from 0 to 100 pretty fast.
However, we have yet to dig ourselves out of the much bigger problem. It may appear hard to fathom, but this blockbuster blizzard with all of this snow may have links to our warming planet. Experts believe global warming may be supercharging some of our snowstorms while boosting the risk for a rapid snow melt.
Climate change is really affecting the underlying set of possibilities for what the weather system is capable of doing.
Andrew Jones is a climate scientist at the Lawrence Berkeley National Lab. His research involves hydroclimate extremes and snow dynamics in particular. This blizzard got his attention.
This was a very interesting storm.
A warming planet should mean less snow, but this was the Lollapalooza of snowstorms.
It really does highlight this conundrum that we see climate change kind of causing two counteracting forces at the same time.
With this blizzard, cold Arctic air made a beeline to California. On the way, it traveled over the warming Pacific Ocean, warming due in part to climate change. The higher temperatures in the ocean and the air allow the atmosphere to hold more water.
So the ocean temperatures are warm right now, and so this cold mass of air that moved down from the Bering Strait has picked up heat and picked up moisture as it was moving across the Pacific,
creating a warmer, wetter storm that was still below freezing. Jones is now keeping his eye on the snowpack, and with good reason. February was the 9th straight month in a row to be the warmest on record globally.
Because overall conditions are warmer, that snow might melt faster than usual.
Jones is hopeful for new strategies that aim to capture excess water and direct it underground. He also says it's not too late to slow down climate change.
We do have to be aware of the changes that are happening and start to prepare for them,
so we can weather any storm.
Average over 16 billion gallons of rain falls on San Francisco every day. Add climate change to the mix and more extreme storms, you wind up with conditions like we saw during this year's atmospheric rivers, flooded streets, backed up drains. In tonight's Project Earth, Ann Makovic reports on a creative solution that aims to manage the stormwater while benefiting kids, their families, and their neighborhoods.
From up high, two pink steeples mark the spot. South of Golden Gate Park, you'll find St. Anne of the Sunset. Neighborhood children have attended its private school for more than a century.
So many individuals in the community and in the neighborhood experience St. Anne's personally or know someone who goes there.
Are you going to eat? Including the Vanderweel family. Parents Jennifer and Miles, 9-year-old Ella.
Do you want yogurt instead, Bud?
And 6-year-old Hugh. They belong to the first generation at St. Anne that will benefit from a bold new project.
Yeah, I think it's really important and wonderful to see the school kind of leading the way.
The plan? To transform St. Anne's concrete campus into a stormwater schoolyard, all thanks to a grant from the San Francisco Public Utilities Commission.
We're excited for you guys to see it when it's built.
Sarah Bloom is a senior watershed planner with the PUC, which has so far awarded 20 grants to schools, art groups, and parks. The main goal is to divert stormwater.
Climate change is here. We're going to see more and more intense storms. We can expect that. And green infrastructure is one of the many tools in our toolbox that we have to manage stormwater, especially during these larger storms.
Last summer, heavy equipment broke ground and construction began. Big storms can overwhelm the city's antiquated sewer system, backing up drains and flooding streets. One way to manage the runoff is to build special gardens, where the rain soaks into the earth or is captured for reuse. At St. Anne's, workers created and then planted several gardens. The students helped select native plants, which will be grown in special soil.
They'll be bringing in specially engineered soil called bioretention soil. And that's a mixture of different types of compost materials and sand that allow the stormwater to flow through it really, really quickly.
The rain that falls on the schoolyard and roof will now flow into the gardens.
So we take that downspout and we disconnect it, and then we'll feed that water straight into the rain garden. So with the addition of the water coming from the yard and the roof, these rain gardens are doing a lot of heavy work when it rains.
Workers also installed a special permeable pavement that acts like a sponge.
Pour water on the paver, it'll soak right into the ground.
Under one garden, a large drain holds heavy runoff, allowing it to slowly percolate into the soil. As for all the water,
it goes straight into the groundwater.
Underneath St. Anne's is the largest groundwater basin in San Francisco. It's called the West Side Basin. It stretches 40 square miles from Golden Gate Park to Burlingame in San Mateo County. After months of ripping up concrete, installing pipes, pavements, and planting new gardens, the big storms are here.
So far, so good. We've had lots of rain, and the gardens have absorbed all the moisture that's come in and all the downpour from the roofs.
Ella and Hugh put on their rain boots and grabbed umbrellas to check out how the new gardens work.
It gets pushed in. Over here, water is dripping from here. You can see that little water here. They're beautiful, and I can see that they're taking a lot of water so they can grow.
It's been a really wonderful project for the kids to get more engaged and become more aware.
Aware that when we put our heads together, we have a better chance of weathering whatever the future brings.
Yeah.
Yeah. The SFPUC is now accepting new applications for grants and even exploring a pilot program for home. We all like to look and feel our best, and sometimes new clothes can help us do just that. But it does come at a cost. So each year, more than 11 million tons of textiles, mostly clothing, ends up in our landfill, which can be harmful for our planet. So in tonight's Project Earth, Elizabeth Cook shows us how one Bay Area woman is creating a beautiful solution, one stitch at a time.
Tucked away in a San Jose storefront, clothing designer Jocelyn West is hard at work on her new collection.
I'm getting ready for spring, and these are linen dusters made from old hand-embroidered tablecloths.
Old vintage tablecloths, once destined for landfill or practically given away at flea markets.
I would find things and just be amazed at, what I was looking at and how undervalued they were.
In her hands, Jocelyn transforms unwanted linens.
This was a Pendleton blanket.
Virgin wool blankets and cashmere scraps into one-of-a-kind masterpieces.
I think this one's beautiful.
Amazing, special.
Really beautiful design.
Jocelyn is practicing the art of what's called upcycling.
Saving things that would otherwise be discarded or no longer needed or used, such as tablecloths, and giving them new life and new purpose and finding the beauty in them. This is all handmade filet lace and linen.
Her unique handmade garments stand in stark contrast to the trend of fast fashion. That's the mass production of cheap, stylish clothes now flooding the market. Research shows consumers are likely to discard fast fashion only after a few wears. Most of it ends up in landfill. As the clothing decomposes, it releases methane, a greenhouse gas that's 28 times as potent as carbon dioxide.
For something you're going to wear 3 or 4 times, it's not worth it. It's not worth what you're doing to the planet.
Back at the storefront, among Jocelyn's most popular garments, these warm, lightweight sweaters for toddlers made out of cashmere scraps. They often sell out first.
They're really pretty and people like them and they're very durable.
Her brand of upcycling is a style that speaks for itself.
Being able to use old tablecloths or jackets or blankets and then giving it a new life. And it just makes it feel so much more special.
I love the idea of upcycling, recycling, right? And fashion together.
I try to upcycle whatever I can instead of throwing away. So I really appreciate when we do have more creative people doing that.
I think I'm doing the planet a favor in my own little way.
1 in 5 Americans now upcycles. It's a fashion-forward solution that hopefully never goes out of style.
There's another reason to buy more durable clothing. Between 8 to 10% of total global emissions comes from the fashion industry.